We watch football for fun. We enjoy the conversation when it sticks to the field and the entertainment that it brings all of us. Unfortunately, it also involves athletes and coaches that sometimes run amok, and such has been the case for many years at LSU. Now, first and foremost, I want to state that this in no way should reflect upon tons and tons and masses of innocent, reputable people within the athletic department, administration, the players themselves, and the coaches themselves who are innocent. So let's focus on what the report that was released today concerning Les Miles in particular, Darius Geis in particular, but others along the in the LSU football program over the past 5 to 10 years. And to do so, we got Lon Philip Sullivan on the line from LSU Odyssey, who joins us on a regular basis. And Lon has done some exhaustive research and work and reading all these documents, listening to every bit of information that's out there, and again, reading volumes of documents that have recently been released. Lon, we appreciate you stopping by to give us your insight and basically explain what the findings are to date and what has left to be discovered.
Wow. Hey, Mark. How's it going? It's a crazy Friday for LSU. Pivotal day for the program. Definitely program at a crossroads moment. If you were an LSU fan and you were worried before the Title IX report from Hush Blackwell came down, you should be a lot more worried now, because I am. The way LSU handled this situation today was nothing short of an embarrassment for the program. They had a clear opportunity here. You know, watching the meeting, the Zoom stream of that meeting was really surreal to me. You heard President Tom Galligan talking about making it right, doing what's right, fixing the past, cleaning up the program, all sorts of these types of platitudes, and just interesting ways to spin the situation positively. But when it came down to doing what's right, he and the rest of the board of directors at LSU fell way short. Verge Osbury was only given a 30-day suspension, unpaid suspension, with some sexual harassment, sexual assault, I believe it was termed sexual violence classes that he would have to undergo. Miriam Seeger given 21-day unpaid suspension, same sexual violence classes as well. This is beyond a slap in the wrist. This is a miscarriage of justice for the victims. And you know, it's very interesting to me that right after hearing from Caroline Schroeder, a victim from an unnamed LSU player who attacked her on a bus coming back from a team event in New Orleans to Baton Rouge, he also attacked another woman on the bus that same night during the same drive. This woman stood up there at the first of this meeting and said, after she just lambasted and laid into these board of directors, saying how careless and dismissive they've been, and how irresponsible and bad they've been in covering the Title IX, responding to the Title IX complaints, Title IX violations. She said, "I hope I've insulted you. I hope the insulting feeling you feel, this fleeting feeling, is just a chunk of what the victims felt." And then she sits down, and you think, okay, here it comes, and Scott Schneider of Hush Blackwell gets up there, and he goes in, and he's saying, I just want you to know we're trying to be fair to everybody in this process. We want to do this. We want to make it right. My own daughter goes to LSU, so I want to make sure we get this okay. And LSU's had some improvements under Scott Woodward in the past few years. And then you finally get into the meat of it, and it's really just a slap on the wrist for Verge Osbury and Miriam Seeger. And there's no real, there's just talk of very simple ways of how they're going to do it better, but they're not, there's no plan. There's no simplification of anything, of any of their processes. There's a few ideas of how they can go about simplifying the Title IX process and how they can go about making it more transparent, but it's just still has seemed just, it was just a very, very, very tough meeting for LSU fans to take. I just, and then you look at the Hush Blackwell report itself. You know, of those named, 2 are directly named. You, of course, got Darius Geis and Drake Davis, but, you know, although they're not named in there, of course, you got Grant Delpit, Peter Parrish, Jacob Phillips, Ray Parker, Darius Geis. I just, Mark, I am sobered to the, I am numb from what I have read today about Darius Geis, and I thought I had read it all. I thought I was privy to every piece of information, but this today, this was awful. Darius Geis, 4 different complaints. Of course, we know Samantha Brennan was one of his victims, and she's spoken out courageously. And we just learned today about him harassing a 70-year-old security guard, 70-year-old female security guard who was working security at the Superdome on December 9th at 3:30 p.m., sitting on a chair at her post when Darius Geis and several other men approached her. Dice comes up to her saying he likes older women, asked if he could have sex with her, and she was shocked and told him that's not funny. He continued to gesture at his private area and grab himself in front of her, saying that older women are my thing and that they could just go off and do it somewhere. And this is a grandmother who's 70 years old, and he's going after her too. I just was absolutely appalled. And straight from the Hush Blackwell report, it said that she reported to her supervisor, and that person called the coach at LSU. It does not specify what coach that would be. The coach at the time, 2017, would be definitively Coach Ed Orgeron, but it does not specify the coach. But it said that he said Darius was probably just kidding around, and that Darius came from a broken home. That's the quote from the supposed coach. And then the victim says she did not care, and that he should be punished for his behavior. She said that he did it with such ease that she felt like he had done this before. The coach asked what she wanted, an apology. She told him that she wanted Darius to sit out from a game, the bowl game. He dismissed her, and no one has returned her calls or done anything. Hush Blackwell was not able to identify the coach referenced in this report. Also, Mark, you've got a longtime LSU staffer saying, quote, "It just baffles me, though, that for so long this went on, and that kind of became the normal, right? And you just don't talk about it, and you don't say anything. You just kind of go, because we're protecting LSU, we're protecting our brand, we're protecting our head coach, we're protecting this. We love LSU, so we're going to be loyal to LSU, so we're going to do what we can to help it and try to fix it. But, you know, nobody wants a big blow-up to where, oh, there's a big scandal, you know. I always felt like we always had to be protective, you know. You want to protect LSU, you don't want there to be any big blow-up or scandal or, you know, much less anything like that, right? It's just from one thing to the next, Mark. Grant Delpit sending screenshots of consensual sex, but sending non-consensually given permission screenshots around of a sexual interaction around to everybody. That's in the report too from Grant Delpit. Peter Parrish, who transferred from the program, allegedly drugged and raped a woman after a night at a bar. Allegedly, he transferred from the program because of that issue as well, and filed a complaint about the Title IX process itself, claiming it was discriminatory against him. That was back in June of 2020 when he filed that, and ESPN reported that as well, but they didn't name him in that. But there's just such a wealth of bad news for LSU fans, Mark. There's no bombshell where it shows that Coach O did anything like on par of like Les Miles. Not even close. But there is clear evidence of a culture that's not really one individual. Besides the few that we know who made mistakes, Verge Osbury, of course, Sharon Jones was named, but I feel Sharon Jones was almost herself a victim of the culture itself. Verge Osbury, who was only suspended for 30 days for protecting Drake Davis with those texts, he was bullying Sharon Jones. He was intimidating her away from reporting Title IX violations. He was shouting at her, hollering at her, cursing at her, and that is a direct quote from the Hush Blackwell report. LSU employees heard Verge doing that to her. So I've got to wonder, why does Verge Osbury still have a job? I know he's an LSU legend. I know that. He's one of my favorite LSU defenders of all time when you're talking historical football greatness at LSU. But I don't give a damn about that when we're talking about daughters being attacked on LSU's campus. Sisters, wives, girlfriends. Unacceptable.
So just to put some framework on this, you named about 7 or 8 football players. Those are the ones we know about.
Yeah.
Who knows if anybody else is involved from the standpoint of the misconduct. The framework of the years, the time frame that these incidents encompass are anywhere from when to when?
Well, it really seems like it's focusing. Well, you know, we haven't even gone into the Les Miles section of this, Mark. The Les Miles stuff goes back to right after the national championship game in 2012, where literally verbatim from the report, Miles sexualized the program. Sexualized the program. He was interviewing hostess candidates because he wanted them to be like the ones at Oklahoma State. He wanted them blonde. He wanted them fit. He wanted them, I can't remember what the other criteria of his was, the other sexist criteria he had, but absolutely outrageous behavior from Les Miles. And Les Miles kissed a student in a parked car behind the athletic building. That just came out the other day. That was from the Taylor Reporter report. I also sent you that as well in the direct messages through Twitter, Mark. It just shows Les Miles in an absolutely ridiculous situation for a head coach to find himself in, for anyone to find themselves in, preying on a young woman, using their power like that to go after a young woman. Absolutely ridiculous. Don't forget this. Les Miles is a married man, a long-time married man, and here he is going after beyond multiple women, dating back to the Oklahoma State days. We don't even know what kind of absolute creep Les Miles is right now. But it's just shocking to me that all of the anti-Les Miles rumors I heard back in the day, I thought were just anti-Les Miles rumors. They're coming true. And it's absolutely crazy. But you know what? It feels there's just so much of his ego rings true with this type of behavior. He thought it was less SU, not LSU. He thought he was bigger than the program, and it's high time there's justice for his crimes. But at the same time, this thing is far from done, Mark. This thing goes way deeper. It goes way further. It's a culture of silence, a culture of, well, I don't want to hear any more details. Go talk to that person about that. Okay, see ya. And just no reporting, no documentation, nothing, even from the most higher ups on campus who document everything, are supposed to.
So to put some type of perspective on who's at fault first and foremost, and you've been talking about him for the last 5 minutes, and then basically what it looks to be there currently is, we know that Nick Saban was the coach through 2004. We know that Les Miles took over in 2005. We know that Les Miles ran this type of program at Oklahoma State because the evidence and the confirmation of that is documented. So we know that, and we know that Nick Saban hasn't had these issues elsewhere. So we know that Les Miles ran that program at Oklahoma State in a similar fashion. So it can lead us to believe that not only has he been a coach that has been negligent, like other college football coaches that have had issues and wanted to just brush them under the rug, defend the players, and let it go, but that he perpetuated or built or enabled this kind of culture, promoted it, encouraged it. And now we can only conjecture to a certain extent, although we have evidence that Ed Ogeron walked into this situation and may not be a culture or a program that he would want to promote himself, but has been maybe to a certain extent unable, unwilling to really end it.
That's a fantastic point, Mark. Like, everything you just said was absolutely brilliant. I absolutely encapsulates a lot of my own feelings on this. I feel like Coach O definitely did walk into this. You asked me last episode in a video of ours that we did that's already gotten, I think, 20,000 views at this point, where you asked me, Mark, is this LSU situation with Les Miles related to the Oklahoma State situation, the 2013 Sports Illustrated piece that you were talking about? And I said, it has to be. It has to be. I mean, there's just, this behavior does not just stop here. You know, sexual crimes, that's why they have the highest recidivism of, criminals. You know, they always go back to prison for committing these crimes. There's some type of compulsion with these crimes. You look at someone like Darius Geis, so many of his crimes were just the most impulsive, vile acts, and he repeated these over and over and over. Les Miles the same. And then you got Coach O, who I feel like he walked into this situation having no clue how sour it was at the top of this athletic department. I mean, how could he? Coach O, he's not that type of a coach. He's not that type of a man who could carry that such dishonesty around, being comfortable with that and having it not affect him noticeably. He couldn't just pretend and put on that show, that act like Les Miles could. Les Miles was a politician. I mean, he would walk up and ask you if you wanted an autograph. He'd walk up and ask you if he could kiss your baby. Coach O, he's just been himself the whole time. I think Coach O walked into this, but at the same time, if that is Coach O who talked to that 70-year-old security guard who said she was sexually harassed by Darius Geis making those comments, I can't defend the guy. I don't think it's Coach O who made those comments, but if it was, wow. I mean, whoever did has to be fired at LSU. I feel like, here's the thing. You can't just go around firing people. I get that left and right. You can't just have this cold-blooded, cutthroat mentality. But when it comes to this type of stuff, when you're talking about protecting a rapist and a beater of women like Drake Davis, and you're Verge Osberry, and I'm the athletic director of LSU, for example. Say I'm the athletic director of LSU, and Verge Osberry had done that. I would literally have been like, man, you're an LSU legend. You know what this program expects. You know what this program is about. You were well below your own standards, but below the standards that you created at this program yourself as a player, as a Tiger. You absolutely let yourself and this program down, and I'm going to have to dismiss you. I'm sorry, Verge. That's what I would have said. Instead, they chose the easy way out. 30-day unpaid suspension for that. I can't believe it. And then if you also hear about the toxicity within the program from Verge, I think the longer they hang on to him, the bigger the problems will be for Coach O. Then the questions will be about how Coach O handles Title IX, how Coach O handles sexual assault when he has people like that still around after they've proven they are part of that Les Miles culture. If he wants to get rid of the Les Miles culture, he's got to take the steps. But, at the same time, Coach O, there's a great point that someone made. I think it was Hush Blackwell's lead investigator, Schneider, who said that the last thing they want is for head coaches to be involved in Title IX investigations, to be sticking their nose in there and trying to mess with the process. So I understand why Coach O has been silent on this whole thing, why he's been in the background. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing. So I feel like Coach O here is clean. I feel like Coach O here is innocent until we hear otherwise. But at the same time, the analysis of this report, it's not over yet. This thing is thick, it's deep, and as much as I've covered through it, I know there's still some corners of this thing that I must have overlooked or something, because there's so much info in there, Mark. It's crazy.
So the report's released. You're on the call that is explaining much of it. Read through the report. And so you just alluded to it at the end of your statement there. Where do we go from here? Are there obvious loose ends that they're still trying to find and confirm so that this can all be wrapped up and figured out? To what extent? It's already, the extent of it's already mind-blowing now. And there's certainly plenty of evidence and confirmations beyond the evidence to really hold people to the fire on this. So my question is basically, where do you think this is going from here? What else needs to be concluded? And secondly, how far can we confirm that there is knowledge of these incidents going up the chain through the administration, that they would be accountable for this?
Yeah, that's really hard to prove. That's really hard to prove because of the lack of documentation from LSU, and because of the fact that you can't just, oh, well, if this guy said he told this person, but there's a lack of documentation, well, now we fire that person. That just doesn't happen. That's not the process, obviously. You're innocent until proven guilty in this country. And so that's really hard to prove. And I think that it's done, that is by design. I think whoever wants to cover this up has set up a process by design where it's very leaky. It's very hard to understand the trail of who knew what and when, because then you can just pass it along, the blame.
At the same time, I do think we have examples of similar serious situations in which certain administrators and have been deemed culpable, and just by their supposed ignorance, and it couldn't be necessarily proven that they knew for sure, but they've still been disciplined and or let go because of their responsibility. Exactly.
And that's the responsibility that President Tom Galligan did not want to take today for LSU. And it's now out of LSU's hands as far as how punishments. Do the NCAA want to come in here and give us some punishments? I'm not sure. I really have no clue what's coming as for that. But if I were to bet on it, I would say yes, they're going to come in here and punish us. I expect resignations from a few staff members to come because of this. Way too much. I mean, there's so many conversations in here and texts and really embarrassing behind-the-scenes info that even reporters who get as close as I really aspire to and pull off a lot of the times, even this stuff made me feel a little kind of like what's the word I'm looking here for? A voyeurist, kind of like, whoa, like this is crazy. I mean, and I usually feel like that when I'm getting crazy reports behind the scenes type of things like that. But this is just something that's because what we're dealing with is so toxic. This isn't someone committing to a different school or choosing what position they're going to play or blah, 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 blah. This is about sexual assault. who knew what, who knew when, who denied it, who chose to stay silent. I there's members of this staff who could be who still could be under investigation that we just aren't even aware of. There's a few people who I know are. There's been speculation about their involvement, who I know have been heavily interviewed by Hush Blackwell. I'm not going to reveal those staff members' names out of respect to them, but I think one of them is more or less known and more or less close to one of these players' incidents. He's named in the report quite frequently. I'm going to give you every clue possible without saying that name. Longtime staffer at LSU, great coach, great guy actually as well. I don't think he did anything wrong, but I feel like he could be caught up in this as collateral damage. I don't want to see that happen. I want to see LSU take responsibility, remove Verge Osberry and his apparent toxicity right now. Start with that and go from there. I understand that you can't just fire people and be cutthroat, but this is something that is absolutely outrageous. And for LSU to turn a blind eye to his behavior, his crimes, if you ask me, I feel like concealing knowledge of a rape or assault, that's a crime in and of itself.
Absolutely. Yeah, to extend on your point there, Lon, even at the most serious aspects of college football, what we deal with are rules violations, which are immoral and unethical to some extent, of course. Rules violations to pay players to get them to sign with your university and your football program, fixing grades to keep players eligible. That all has to do with competition and trying to win football games, and it's wrong. This is way beyond. This is criminal. This is breaking laws. This is immoral. This is immoral conduct against humanity, against females. Yeah, that's completely beyond.
And as an LSU fan, if you don't feel disgusted about this today, if you don't feel angry, if you don't feel sad for the victims having such a lack of justice today, receiving such a almost like a spit in the face, the way that they went before the board of directors, said what they said, went before Hush Blackwell, said what they said in those reports, how detailed that report is, and yet 30 days, 21 days, combined 51 days of suspension and some sexual violence classes for 2 members of the staff who should not be there, who do not deserve their jobs, and frankly are an embarrassment to the LSU program.
Lon Philip Sullivan, LSU Odyssey. So if there's not been a time in the past as an LSU fan, as an SEC fan, as a college football fan that you have found it necessary to go over, check out his site to follow the LSU football coverage, do so this time to follow a human interest story. And beyond that, just to, of course, track the indescribable at times, what we don't want to talk about, but needs to be discussed, needs to be in the open. The light will always expose darkness, and so we need to discuss these things. We need to bring them to light. We need to hold accountable those people that are violating others. Absolutely. Lon, we appreciate you stopping by, and again, encourage everyone to check out LSU Odyssey and for the football coverage and for certainly this coverage of a situation that continues to unfold. Lon, we appreciate it.
Mark, last thing, thank you so much. I just want to encourage, I've had a few victims who've contacted me, who've told me their experiences. I encourage you, I want to talk to you directly. I encourage you to come out, to speak to me, to send me to my email, lphil27@gmail.com. You can reach me on Twitter at Lon Phillips, LONNPHILLIPS. You can reach me through LSUodyssey.com. I will keep it confidential, keep it anonymous. Tell your story, speak it out. We want to hear it. We want the truth to come out. Go Tigers, but it is a sad, sad day to be a Tiger, Mark. I thank you for having me on, but man, this is tough.